This afternoon kicks off for the defensive linemen, edges, and linebackers, the testing portion of the NFL Combine, the part that we all love to watch, see, get the measurables of, put them into RAS, and see what do these guys look like athletically out on the field so we can put that with our tape. But before that, yesterday, we got to see a lot of these guys in interviews, out on Radio Row, talking to a lot of guys, and there were some really impressive things that stood out. And I'm going to look at a few of the guys that the Packers would possibly be interested in. We've got a definite need at linebacker, and we could use a little bit more shoring up on the interior of that defensive line as well. And you never can rule out Brian Gutekunst from targeting an athletic freak athlete edge. So let's get into some of that. The number one guy I want to look at here first is Peyton Wilson. And Peyton Wilson, the biggest question mark for him is the medicals, which allegedly NFL teams are comfortable with his medical checkout at this point, is some of the reporting that I saw earlier today. But if that's the issue and he's cleared, which it's going to vary team to team, this dude can straight up play ball, like outstanding range, speed. And he talks here about how he likes to model his game after Luke Kuechly.
I model my game after Luke Kuechly. That's somebody that I've really looked up to. I've actually been in contact with him, and even off the field, he's one of the best people that you ever meet. Continuing to praise the Lord, just the way that he played the game on and off the field is just, it's awesome. And if I could be anything close to that, it would be a dream come true.
What's some advice he's given you as you get ready to get drafted into the league?
Yeah, just continue to stay humble. I really picked his brain about how to watch film. Everybody knows that he was, if not the smartest player to ever play the game. I just, trying to figure out how he processed the game, how he broke down film. It really helped me so much throughout these last 2 years, and, I'm really thankful for him.
And in a separate interview that he did with former Vikings GM Rick Spielman, he talked about what it is that makes him fly around the field like a bat out of hell with his hair on fire, and what drives him to do that. And a big part of that is he talks about how he's had the game taken away from him with missing so much time, with all the medical issues that he's had, 2 ACLs, shoulder issue as well. He plays every down as if it could be his last, because, it very well could be. So love to see that intensity. Seems like a really smart dude and is focused on the right kind of things and is seeking out a mentor like Luke Kuechly. Another guy that I thought was really impressive in his interviews was son of, Panthers defensive lineman, nephew of former Packers defensive lineman Cullen Jenkins, and that is Chris Jenkins. Doesn't go by Junior, just Chris Jenkins. Is trying to elevate himself to be the Chris Jenkins, leaving a legacy behind. But this kid was incredibly articulate. Talked about, how big of a mentor his father was for him and how he kind of coached him along, and it wasn't easy by any means.
He was a hard mentor, and he was hard on me because he knew, he knows, he's been there and he knows what it takes, to get to that point. So he knew, especially the position where I was at when I was younger, that I needed to change my mentality, I needed to change my work ethic if I wanted to get into a position like this.
And to have a little bit more fun with it too, he did get asked, who would win, between Cullen Jenkins and Chris Jenkins Sr. He'd previously said that he wouldn't stand a chance against his father, but he did say, this about the matchup of the brothers.
Man to man,
right now,
1v1.
Somebody said something the other guy didn't like, and it's time. It's on.
You see, that's an interesting one because, my uncle, he's quick, and my dad does have the strength.
Right.
So, I'm going to give to my uncle, now because, probably give him because he's a little bit step quicker.
Oh, okay,
I'll do respect to Pops.
And a little younger, too, now, right? Yeah.
No,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But in their prime, that would have been very interesting.
Right,
You
damn.
can see, they're definitely both built.
Right.
All right, and this next guy now, he is the freak athlete at the edge that I wouldn't be surprised if Brian Gutekunst was too tempted to pass up on. Top 50 guy, as were the previous two guys as well. Darius Robinson out of Missouri. And this dude, you just see him on the screen here shortly. He is massive. And you just know he's going to test through the roof. Height, weight, speed guy, talks like impressively about, what are some areas that he could improve upon as a player.
Yeah, I think I got to play with more consistent pad level and then work on inside hand placement. I think I noticed on tape a lot of the great D-Linemen get their hands inside and get off blocks much easier.
Right.
So just be more consistent at that.
Okay, and you play, you're tall and long, so you play high at times?
Yeah,
is that what you're
sometimes,
saying?
yes, sir.
I think the thing that really stands out to me and that I'm most impressed with about that answer is just the fact that he has that self-awareness and is really taking a hard look at it, and the fact that he has a plan for how he is going to approach his improvement as a professional. And he was actually asked, what his favorite pass rush move is.
Man, speed to power. I'm on my 2x4 speed track, and I'm just running through. And then if not, I'm going to come back with a level rush. And if I'm on my power track 2x2, I'm setting him up, getting him to sit down, and then pull his shoulder, upper body rotation. So that's what I'll be thinking.
All right, so we've kind of hit a little bit of a flavor of each of those positions that'll be testing this afternoon. And, Peyton Wilson, Chris Jenkins, and then Darius Robinson. But a guy that has been linked to the Packers a little bit and is potentially the number one linebacker in this class, Edgerrin Cooper, also spoke about his similar size and what he sees in Fred Warner as somebody that he wants to kind of model his game after.
Yeah, just the speed, I like to watch him because, he's has a similar body type to me. So just watching tape on him, see how he moves, and, being a great player he is, and, just learning from that.
And I think what's cool about Fred, I remember when he was coming out of BYU, it was, hey, this guy could play in the slot, overhang, you could play him in the middle. And when I watch your tape with your athleticism and your range and your instincts, it feels like that's a lot of things that you could do as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I feel like, we have the same, coming out playing college-wise, maybe versatile and been using different aspects.
Another interesting piece about this, and I just thought this was kind of, fitting, as describes himself as an outdoorsy type guy, and I think that would be a good fit in the Green Bay environment there. Moving on to some guys a little bit later in the draft, still top 100 type guys, somewhere in that 70 to 80, 90 range. Looking at guys like T'Vondre Sweat, who, his charisma at the podium was pretty impressive, but it was just funny. Like he gave me almost Shaquille O'Neal type vibes in the way that he was communicating. He had a little bit of a humor about him, and you see that here in this clip.
Let y'all know, I'm doing everything at the combine before y'all even ask. I feel like a lot of y'all gonna be like, when I run this 40, I'm gonna shock a lot of y'all, so.
So what do you anticipate running?
4.4, 4.5, get up out of there.
I'm not really sure that I'm huge on targeting the defensive line, as early as maybe Chris Jenkins. If he's falling a little bit, I would definitely love that. But T'Vondre Sweat is definitely another guy that has that size, big, massive, impressive athlete that we could potentially see as a target in the first 2 days of the draft. Another guy that I really liked here and who had a great Senior Bowl performance was edge out of Eastern Michigan, Marshawn Kneeland. And he spoke with Rick Spielman and told him a little bit about some of the challenges and how he felt that he fared against the competition at the Senior Bowl, as he does come from a smaller school that doesn't play against those Power 5 schools as often.
My mindset really was, a lot of people say about my film, they're like, oh, okay, he's doing it against, Group of 5 and a couple Power 5s. They said I had a couple good games, but, I wanted to prove that I could do it against the best of the best, which I feel like, I went down there, I had a pretty decent time and, improved my draft stock.
No, you had a good week. You don't have to sugarcoat it. It was fun to watch.
And then the last guy that I kind of wanted to talk about here, a little bit later in the draft even yet, somewhere in the 180, 190 range is probably about where he'll end up going. But linebacker Cedric Gray from UNC, he flies around the field, has sideline to sideline type capabilities, and shows some of the athleticism that he has, where he was actually a high school receiver primarily and still played a little bit of linebacker, but was receiver first and foremost. So has some of that speed and that range that you'll see out of there, and then is a bit raw at the linebacker position. Really had to learn a lot of that technique throughout the years that he spent at UNC. And he talks about, one of the guys that he loved growing up was Troy Polamalu. And there's some aspects of Polamalu's game that he likes to incorporate into the way he plays the game.
Definitely Troy Polamalu. Like I said, that was one of my favorite players when I was little growing up. Just the effort that he played with, the tenacity and the physicality that he plays with. I try to model that and put some of that stuff into my game today.
All right, well, that was just a few guys that I watched some interviews of that I was really just interested in seeing how they would, carry themselves in front of, the audience. It is a very stressful situation, and by no means did any of them, struggle whatsoever. They all were very articulate, but they're not the only guys that I'm going to still kind of watch for at the draft. I am going to keep an eye on, the pair of linebackers out of Michigan in Junior Colson and Michael Barrett, as well as Florida State's defensive tackle Braden Fisk, and then also Jerzon or Johnny Newton from Illinois, another interior defensive lineman to potentially keep an eye on. But, stick here. I'm going to keep bringing more primers for the next day of the draft, and we'll start to get through some of the, the highlights and start to look at where do these guys shake out and who's on the move as far as draft position or projection goes based on their performance at the Combine.